there we go. Sweet. Awesome. So the plan is I'm just going to walk everybody through. This is going to be on the test net too, just so everybody's aware. But just kind of wanted to show all the features off that we're going to have for MVP, just kind of walk through it. Those that did make it today, if you want to ask a question, just, drop it in chat or whatever. We can cover off on those. I know you're here, Frank, so you've seen a lot of questions that have come through. So figured we just kind of walk through this, kind of show what's here. And obviously there's still a bunch of stuff coming during the 1.1 release, which will be flowing through after MVP. So obviously MVP, we just wanted to get, really the proof of concept out there. And obviously there's a lot of really good stuff that's going to be coming pretty quickly right after launch. So, but let's rip into it. So this will be kind of the splash screen that appears. So once you enter the game for the first time, you'll see this welcome message. You won't see it again once you click on get started. So once you've logged in, so I kind of started here, but if you go back a step, you can either access this through the Players Hub. There'll be a play game link that we're going to add to the Novo website as well. And that will obviously take you here to this kind of splash screen. So you'll need to log in with your Wax wallet. That will then drop you here. And then we plan to add some links as well for folks that don't have a wallet yet. And so if they want to create a wallet, we'll kind of create some videos and things like that, because we know, obviously everybody knows how clunky that is at the minute, just even getting started on Wax. All right, so let me go jump in here because I'm in there. Okay, this is going to be a little laggy too, by the way, because I'm on a VPN, so just for consideration. So obviously I've just clicked through to getting started, and then you'll just see this next welcome message will pop up. And then you can just click on select a realm, and that's going to take you through to the Novo map. You'll see some resources have passed through to this account now, and those are just sitting in the account. So this is obviously not sitting in your wallet yet. So this is living inside of the game infrastructure. So to start looking at districts that you might want to go into, so you can just click on one of the realms. So this is light. If you want to zoom in a little further, you can click on the little zooms on the side here, and then you can start kind of looking at specific districts. I'm on a Mac, so I've kind of got to hold my mouse and move it down, but you can see here the districts that are available to start. So what we did was we really chose what we felt was the best districts to start thinking about what's coming in the game. And obviously everybody's seen the chatter around inter-realm resource movement and those sort of things that'll be coming later in the game. So knowing that, we thought these were probably going to be the best districts that you'd really want to pick, because if you are going to be playing sort of that whole multiple realm sort of mogul of moving stuff around, moving resources potentially from light to a trading post in Earth, then you probably want to be considering going from here to here. Because what is going to be coming is we are going to start factoring in time and distance. So distance and time will be a factor as you're traveling from district to district. So when Mike and I were sort of chatting around, factoring in time within the realm, within your district itself, it was starting to get really complicated. And then when you factor in like the resting cooldowns and all that kind of stuff, it's a lot. So I think the consideration from the team was that, traveling from here to here, if I am potentially working in another district or I'm moving stuff around later in the game, then that's kind of when we'll factor in some sort of time factor. So there'll be, some sort of distance matrix that we'll factor in. But really what it's going to be is just going from the center to the center. So it's not going to be a case where, and we'll get into this in a second when we go into the actual district itself, when you guys are choosing your lands tomorrow, so right, sorry, on the 9th, when you actually go into the map, Frank, you probably just had a heart attack, so it's the 9th. So when you actually go into the map, it won't matter whether you choose your land on the edge, or whether you choose it in the middle or at the top or the bottom. So, we just kind of, some things we want to just simplify for the user. And that's really just going to be, there's obviously going to be some things that you want to have, but ultimately, traveling within the district itself, it's just going to be too complex, just too much, I think, for the player to manage. So we just sort of thought, that would make it easier. And then especially as people are choosing the lands later, it really doesn't matter then whether you choose it at the top or the bottom. You can just kind of start to really think more about the district that you want to be in. And I think that's probably the major takeaway from today, is just kind of really think about where you want to position yourself. So if you are a light player, and maybe you are sitting on some earth stuff right now, then this is probably a good one right here. Or maybe it's here, if you're going to be doing stuff in shadow and time, this is obviously a good district as well, because you've got a really good proximity to both. So just some things to take into consideration. So if you want to zoom out, just, you can click on the minus sign. If you do go into a district, the other toggle here is if you go into a district now, I'll just show this really quick. So this is obviously light, it's just completely empty. So if you want to go back, then you can just click on the icon here, and this will take you back to the map. So as you're kind of getting started and poking around, you can start to then just, use these different toggles. So again, you can zoom in, and then the Novo icon as well will zoom you back out to the full view. So I'm actually going to just log out of this account real quick, and jump back into the testnet one that's up and running, so you guys can kind of see a fuller view. That's this one. This is actually in Earth. So when you've actually selected your realm and you have staked some sort of asset to the game, you will skip over all of those introductory modals, and it'll take you straight to your home realm. So that's also just it just removes kind of some of those steps at the start. So here's kind of a test realm that's been district, that's been up and running. So like I was saying, as you guys are thinking about where you want to put your lands, like I said, it's not really going to matter whether you put it here or whether you put it here. So there's not going to be any sort of time consideration taken into effect. So if you've got skilled workers, and let's just hypothetically say you want to drop it into this building here, but maybe they're resting down here. That distance to go from A to B's, it's not a factor. The distance is only going to be a factor if you are potentially looking for a job and you want to now go from District 1 to District 2. So that's where there will be some sort of time factor put in play. So let's kind of go through the steps. So what are we going to do when we get in here for the first time? So you'll obviously come in and you'll select a plot that you want to grab. And that's not good because I don't have any land. All right, so let me just unstick this one. Sorry, I should have checked this. All right. I'll show you all these filters and stuff in a sec. Okay, so this will obviously any of your land claims that you have. So when you come in, you'll be able to stake that obviously to a plot. There isn't any bulk features, so just being transparent with everybody. I know that was something we were hoping that we were going to have time to get in, but it just, with other features that came up during UAT testing, we just didn't have time to really get the bulk features in. And it's also some of the way that the architecture is being done of the game, and all of this is under review at the minute. So there are some things that we are looking to change to make the game a lot more efficient on the resources. So, you know, Coins, I know you had mentioned some stuff just this morning about CPU and RAM, and so we've been consulting with some other folks. So, so Nick was reviewing some things with the game. So, I mean, he's obviously done a lot of games on Wax, and he came in and had a look at some of our stuff and made some recommendations to the team. So we've been taking those things on, and the plan is just to keep refining it and making it more efficient for everybody, so people are just not burning through tons of resources. So once you've added that land claim, so you can kind of see here, if you hover over it, there's my username that I've set up just for this game. Now, if you want to start adding your buildings now, you can just click on it. So this is kind of the first modal that will appear, and all this stuff is in the game guide as well. So if you haven't had a look at that, I've put screenshots and all kinds of shit in there, so you can go through it. But this is where you will set a toggle here of whether you want to rent this particular plot out or whether you want to add your own building. So if you plan to use the building yourself, then you'll just toggle this on. Obviously, you're not going to be charging yourself rent. There's a 50 materials cost that you'll need to pay. And so I'll get into that in a second here about how you can be, you know, buying and selling resources as you start to get low, especially at the beginning. You'll just click on submit and you'll sign that. And these are some of the things as well, you know, like I was saying, we're going to try to improve on just the amount of signing that is happening at the minute. It's pretty excessive. So we're going to be working on that to improve, kind of winding back some things. So the amount of signing, you know, is not as heavy as it is at the start for MVP. So now you can kind of see like little tree signs appears that just says occupied. So that's going to let other players know that the building and the landowner are the same, and you can obviously see those here as well. So just different testers that have done that also. But let's add a building now. So if I go back and click on the same plot, you know, I can see my buildings now. So sorry, let me just flip back over here. So all of the buildings that I have in my account now appear here, so I can just pick whatever one I want. So let's grab an energy mine, and that'll get added to the game now, and it appears there. So now it's been set, and if we go into the inventory tab now, you'll start to see the timer now. There's some others that are running here, but this is the one I just staked to the game. So you'll see now, this is actually going to be the typical land contract is 7 days. This is shorter just because we've been testing and we want to speed some things up, but this will start to click down from 7 days. And so once the 7 days expires, you will need to decide whether you want to keep renting that land out or whether you want to maybe use it for yourself. So we've obviously got it set at 7 days right now. There's been some questions that have come in from testers about whether we're going to extend those contracts out longer. And I think those are all good features that we'll add as we get going to give players flexibility. They may just want to have longer contracts, especially if you're using the buildings yourself. But that's kind of where it's at the minute. So to obviously get working workers in here and start some production. So now that the building's been added, the wage modal appears. So again, just like with buildings, I've got to decide, am I going to use my own workers, or are we going to set this building to be posted in the jobs posting section? And I'll show you where that lives in a minute. But for this example, let's just use our own. So you'll see down the bottom here what the costs are going to be to get this wage contract into effect. So the maximum capacity, because it's a level 1 building, is 3 workers. So it's 1 obsidian essentially per worker. So, and then you've got 15 energy and 15 materials. So you see that here, you know, times by 3. So it obviously sets you up to for max capacity. So you obviously have to pay for the full capacity of that shift. So you can obviously use your own workers, or you know, you can outsource them and try to find other players' workers if you need to. So once you click submit, those materials and obsidian are going to be deducted from your account. So if you didn't have enough, then you would have received an error message there saying that you don't have enough either energy or materials or even obsidian, and you need to go purchase that, purchase those resources to get it in there. So now that I've set the wage modal, I can add my workers now. So originally we didn't have a bulk feature for this, but we got it in there, thank God. So this is going to be a lot faster now. So you can just select the 3 workers if you have 3, and then just add them to the building. And you can kind of see here, just again, just it's a lot of signing a minute. So, but now those guys are in there, and you can see the resources are actually paid as well on the front. So that shift has now started for these guys. So if we head over here, you can see, and again, this is on a shorter timer. So the typical shift is 12 hours. So this would have been a 12-hour cooldown timer, sorry, that would have gone into effect. And obviously these workers can't be removed until that timer ends. So once the timer ends, you know, then obviously you've got to feed them and start the resting period. So for MVP, residential buildings are not available yet. That's going to be coming post MVP. So right now, I think we're aiming to have that out in early August is when residential buildings will be coming. So once your shift ends, you will need to assign the worker to a residential building. And again, that's just adding more resource drains to the game for the economy. And it's just going to be it just adds overall health to the game, just having more drains. So, but for now, for the early players, you won't need to assign them to a residential building. So all you'll need to do is, once the shift has ended, you can come into your inventory tab, find the workers that need to be essentially triggered to go into the rest period. So again, we got a bulk feature in here, which is really handy. So there's a lot of people coming in. So all you'll need to do, if you have multiple workers here, and I actually left a bunch from yesterday because I wanted to show this feature. So I've actually got 6 workers here that I need to trigger into a rest period. So you can just click on this little link that's here. So you'll see the bracket shows you how many workers that you have that you need to take care of. And then it's going to show you the total cost. So in this case, I've got 6 workers, and I need to feed them their food. So I can do that in bulk here now, which is great. So I can just take care of that, and that's going to deduct those resources from my account. Again, sorry for the lag. It's just this VPN sucks that I'm using. So, but you can see here, the cooldown has now started. So you can see the 3 guys that we added here to the building, their shifts going. And this would normally be a 24-hour rest period that's going to start here. So this will be the area as well. So when, you know, you guys that are sitting on, you know, epics or legendary or mythics, this will be kind of where now you can come in and assign, when that feature is available, but this is where you'll go to assign a card, to reduce the rest period or accelerate it. So that's kind of what's going to be coming as a part of the 1.1 release as well. So let's just go back to the map because I want to show you some of the other cool toggles that have been added. So you can see like this particular board, it's getting a little congested. And so we've added a couple of filters down here to sort of make things easier to find. So this particular filter here, what this does is it's going to show you where your assets are. So you can see here the glow that's appearing around the box itself, which indicates this is land that I own. And you can see that in the little tooltip as well. There's my account, so these ones are mine. If you have a building that's yours, it'll light up as well. And this one over here is kind of a situation where I've put my building on someone else's land. So you see there, the box is not illuminated, the actual plot itself, just the building. So in that example, again, if you're using someone else's land, it at least shows you where it is, and you can see the original landowners listed there as well. So it's a handy tool when you need to kind of find your stuff quickly. This other, so this little obsidian and sort of workers pick is going to kind of show you the buildings that have jobs available. So if you're going to play potentially, or if you've got workers and you're just looking to get them into buildings to utilize them, this is just a cool feature that quickly shows you work that's available. So it will show you your own buildings as well. And so none of these other testers actually have their buildings listed right now. But if they did, then you'd see the little, sorry, I'm moving around too much. The sign there would be illuminated with the one obsidian. So if this was someone else's building, you could just, again, click on the building and it's going to allow you then to select the workers that you want to use. So, all right. So the exchange is going to be super important in this game. So as you saw at the start, we do have some resources that we are issuing for free. There's been obviously some comments about that, whether we should be issuing free resources or not. Obsidian obviously is not tradable during MVP, so it's not withdrawable from the game. But obviously, as we march forward and we start adding more users and Obsidian becomes available on our core, I know there was some concerns about the storage costs and whether we should be issuing resources for free. So I think it's still up for discussion around whether we should be doing that or not, or whether we should just have players purchasing Obsidian at start just to get them started. So I think it's a good discussion that we can still have in the Discord and just get people's perspective on that. So we obviously want to make sure we're building this the right way and not encouraging people to just excessively over multi-account and things like that. So I think the preference is that we want to see players playing from one account and playing that way. So I think what we're trying to do, and this was the advice that we got as well when we talked to some gaming studios in New York, was to really focus on the mechanics internally of the game, to try to look at ways to really prevent botters and multi-accounters by just creating good strategy elements in the game that really just make it inefficient for them. It's just not time rich for them to do it. And that was really the advice that we received consistently. Otherwise, it just turns into you're constantly chasing your tail, dealing with trying to play whack-a-mole constantly. So we know that's going to have to happen. We certainly don't want to have bad actors ruining the gameplay for others. So we totally understand that and want to make sure that people are playing the game the right way. So I think any feedback or comments, let's keep that conversation going in VIP chat around, free resources, yes or no. We obviously are still trying to provide some early value as well to players that have got in early. So, just things to consider. So here's the Novo Exchange. So this is going to be an area that players are going to use a lot. Apologies for my screaming kid in the background. So if you have resources, you can buy and sell here. So if you've been, running your buildings, you can sell your resources here. So I've got some energy in here, and I could sell 70 energy for 1 obsidian. So let's just go ahead and do that. And this is going to be important at the start because you're going to be high and low on certain resources. So depending on what sort of buildings you have, you may have only food buildings, for example, and you accumulate some food really quickly. Well, you're going to have to sell some of it, to pick up some obsidian. And then, for example, you may need to buy some building materials because you don't have any buildings, materials buildings. So you can purchase 60 building materials for 1 obsidian. So you can just come in and then buy it. And that's going to then add, the 60 then into your storage. And you can see that just sort of ticked really fast. Okay, so I'm just going to pause here for a second because I've just been talking a shit ton. And I just kind of want to see if there is any questions from anybody. Let me see. Okay, so I'm just going to go through some of these questions that folks have asked. So I appreciate that. So when will it be possible to change the salary and land rent to higher values? Yeah, so good question, Juan. So I think we have plans to make that more flexible. There will obviously be a floor for rent and salaries, but I think once we get through MVP, once we run some of the data through machinations and we can see how the economy is performing, I think at that point, once we really get through the next certification with them, which will be sort of this 1.1 build, we can then start to open it up and let players start charging rent differently as well as salaries as well. And that's going to happen organically too as we get into building and skilled worker upgrades, because that floor price will obviously go up. So it's, for example, like 1 obsidian is the minimum wage for a level 1. That's going to go up, for a level 2. So, that's going to, again, provide players, encourage players to want to level up, because you're going to earn more yield for resources, and you're also going to earn more from a wage perspective as well. Sorry, the feed cut out. If we own land in the building, we have to rent it to ourselves, renewing the contract every sale. Yeah, so yes, thanks for the question, Coin. So correct. So at the minute, even though you are a building owner and a landowner, you're essentially technically you're renting it to yourself for 7 days. And so a lot of that was we just, again, wanted to keep the gameplay simple versus having, varying rental periods. So I think the feedback that we got was that, building owners that are going to use their own land are going to want to have longer rental periods because they're just not going to move the buildings around. I think at the start of the game, we wanted to provide a little bit more flexibility as kind of people are getting familiar with the game. They may, they may want to move some stuff around. You may want to change districts. So rather than kind of locking you in for 30 days at the start, we thought we would at least just make it shorter for MVP, and that just gives you some flexibility to chop and change a little bit if you want to. And so that's kind of where it's gonna be. What we are gonna do is, and I'll show you kind of what happens here, because it's kind of tied to this question. So when your land and building contract expires, you essentially right now, and this is probably the one feature the feedback that we got is just it just needs to be addressed. But what you have to do is you have to unstake the building and then re-add it again. And so totally understand, like that's going to be annoying at the beginning, especially if you have a lot of buildings. So one of the things that we are going to add is, let me just find, I think it's this guy probably here. No, it's not. These contracts are all still going, but what'll happen is it'll say if the land contract has expired, when you click on the modal, it'll say remove building. And what we're planning to do is add a second button that'll just say renew. So if you have a building that you just don't want to move, you can just click on renew, and then it'll keep the same configuration from the previous 7 days that you set up. And as I said, once we get going, we will plan to have longer contracts, so again, you can just kind of set it and it'll just run for longer rather than having to deal with it. So in the beginning, yeah, a little bit of there'll be a little bit of management there, but again, we just thought the flexibility was important at the start. Okay, so Game Rich says, so you'll be paying your own workers and the OBS won't be going back to your own resources. Yeah, it actually does. So what happens, Game Rich, so when you, let me just see if I can do it again here so you can see it. Let me just add a building here so we can just go through this because it's a good question. So you can just kind of see how the resources are moving. Just add a building. Okay, so for this guy here, let's so I plan to use my own building, my own worker, sorry, in the building. So what it's going to do is it's going to subtract 3 obsidian here. So you'll see, so 4127. Let's just assign that to, this will deduct by 3. And then I'll show you how the obsidian actually comes back to you. Okay, so it's dropped to 4124. So let's add these 3. And you'll see once these are added, like the 3 obsidian comes back to you. So that goes in. So you'll see there. So now you're at net 0 because you're using your own workers. So obviously, if other players, had, so if you had set that for this building to be available to other players, then obviously when their workers are added into your building, there would have been another subtraction there because you're paying the wage. So so that's kind of what's happening there, where you've got if you're using your own guys, then it's just going to go out and then it's going to come back to you. So it just essentially nets it down. If once you've paid the obsidian to set the wage contract up, then that 3 obsidian is then going to be just subtracted out, and then it's going to be paid to any workers then that are assigned to your building. Okay. All right, so it looks like somebody answered that question. So have you already looked at the occupation of land workers, and will there be a lot of idle assets? So I think like right now, the way that we've set it up at the beginning was there was 750 buildings. So when you factor in the 3 different building types, there was 750 buildings. There was enough skilled workers released to have 3 workers going inside of each building. So we issued more than enough skilled workers to have those buildings be occupied. In fact, if all of the skilled workers were taken, we probably honestly don't have enough. But at the minute, I think there's a lot of skilled workers still available in the marketplace. I think players are starting to get low on creative credits, or just kind of wanted to see if this was actually going to come to fruition or not. But I think once those skilled workers start to drop down, there's definitely there's a good balance there right now. So we shouldn't, as long as the skilled workers start to get taken, then no, we really shouldn't see buildings unoccupied. So we wanted to make sure that was the case, which is why we didn't over saturate right now with just excessive amount of buildings. And the other reason was we didn't want to have too many resources being produced, because then we would start to see just massive inflationary problems, because you'd be earning too fast. So I hope that answers the question. All right. So let's just have a look at some of the other features that are here. So this is kind of the missions tab. So there'll be other things that pop up in here. I don't know why Mike called it missions, but this is really going to be if you're going to play the game, as a third party that's looking to either rent someone's land, or maybe I'm going to play the game. I just have skilled workers and I'm just going to be looking for jobs. So you can come into these boards here to find, land that's available. So here are some plots where the land's available. So if that's how you're going to play, you just want to passively just drop your land in here and then peace out, and then just handle the resource maintenance. You can certainly do that, and other players will be able to come into these boards and see what's available. Same with jobs. So to Game Rich's question, so this will kind of start to really beef out. So as you come in here with skilled workers, you can start to see any potential jobs that are available. So this is actually a bug that I need to report, because these two shouldn't be here. But you can see these two don't have any workers in there right now. So I could come in here and add some workers just from the jobs board. So in a situation like that, so that's how simple it is, for players. They can just come in and find work that's available, and away you go. So some of the other features too, just to point out, that have been suggested is just little things like some deep linking. So right now, like if I click on this card or click on the plot number, it's not taking me back to the map, to kind of show me where this is. So that was kind of just some little feedback of just, again, UX things of, if you kind of want to visually see where it is, that might be helpful for players. So just, that was some feedback that we got. Same on the job side, where, you might want to just see where the building is. And, so we plan to add, that linking and some of those features once we get going post MVP. So that's been great feedback that we've got from the community. So from the inventory tab, again, like there's some different things that you can do here. So if you want to, I think most people are going to probably play from the main map, but some people may want to pay from their inventory and sort of manage things here, which again, so I've got 2 plots of land here that I haven't, that the contracts have expired. So as I was showing and sort of piggybacking on your question, Coins, so this is kind of where right now, like if you didn't want to keep this land in the game, you could unstake it, so you could just take it out, and this is going to be returned to you. So now if you wanted to, go sell that land claim on Atomic Hub or something, now it's essentially available now to you, to be used. It's liquid. If you want to set the rent for this one, if you refire it, maybe this one I don't actually plan to use the building now, so I'm just going to submit and pay my 50 materials, and that's ready to go. And again, like this is sort of the change that appears now where the little 2 OBSD sign appears on the map. What else? So player profile area. So this will be where you'll come in and upgrade storage. So as you know, if you played games that have any sort of storage, you know, Clash of Clans is one that comes to mind, where you're constantly having to upgrade, you know, your storage so you can hold more capacity. So this will be where you come in and do that. You know, so you'll click on as you're starting to get close to the cap. You can come in and click on the upgrades. I think there's been some discussion about, you know, the costs at the minute. You know, seem potentially a little too high for Obsidian at the start of the game. So I think there's some things that we are discussing as a team about whether we need to make some adjustments to the storage costs. You know, I know Dash had made some good comments as well. Just again, this might, you know, prevent some multi-accounting and things like that if the, you know, the costs are not as high. So just some things we, you know, we just wanted to be transparent with everybody. We are hearing everybody's comments and feedback, and we discuss it daily, you know, because you guys have awesome feedback. So we are taking it all into consideration about what is going to be best for everybody going forward. So, but this is where you'll come in and obviously handle, you know, any upgrade costs that you have. If you're short, you know, so that you can see the buttons grayed out here, you know, and you can obviously buy more resources if you need to. And that's basically it. So I think I've covered off anything unless any of the other UAT testers that are in here, if there's something I've forgotten to share. I know we covered a lot there. It's like 45 minutes. So is there any other questions, comments? Just want to make sure we get a chance to address anything in here. Yeah, so the game is completely mobile responsive. So great question. Again, thanks, Game Rich. So yeah, you'll be able to play this on your phone. So, you know, Mike and I have built a lot of different applications. You know, Mike's more from the gaming sector. I've done more e-commerce related projects over my career, but we wanted to make sure the game was mobile friendly right from the jump. So yeah, any mobile browser, you'll be able to play this game 100% from your phone. So all of the essentially these toggles and menus and everything all become mobile responsive. So it'll all live within like a hamburger menu and those sort of things that everybody's used to on phones. I think that's it. Frank, was there anything else that you could think of? I just want to make sure we've addressed everything, but I think we've covered off, you know, essentially all the features that will be there for MVP. You know, like I said, there's just a ton of stuff that's going to be coming post MVP. So, you know, the ability to upgrade your buildings, the ability to upgrade your skilled workers. You know, I think when we built this game, you know, that was really what the goal of the game was, to build a progression style, you know, game that a lot of us have all played, where, you know, everybody starts the game at the same point. But obviously you're leveling up your assets. And I think for us, we wanted to build a game where you are accruing resources, obsidian, materials, and all that good stuff, and then having to really spend the materials inside of the game to level up your NFTs. And then by creating different levels, different yields, different value for those assets, we can start to, you know, create a nice spread in value of those assets. So as players, you know, enter and exit at different points, we start to see a nice spread of pricing on the secondary market as well. So, you know, obviously a lot of you guys that have got in super early, you know, can start to potentially, you know, liquidate some things if you want to, you know, generate some ROI. So I think getting those buildings and workers upgraded is going to be super key. And I think that's what we're trying to, I think, encourage with the mechanics here is allowing people to save here in this early stage, and then when upgrades drop here post MVP, you know, start to see people upgrading, we'll obviously be pushing for new players to come in, and it just provides them some opportunity to maybe jump ahead to level 2 and 3. Obviously, the town hall, that you kind of see here in the center, this is going to be a big piece of the gameplay as we go forward and we start to introduce the staking mechanics. As we introduce the Novo token, which is really going to be the governance token of the game. So I think there's a lot of exciting things coming. A lot of you saw the trailer that we dropped yesterday, and that was obviously as a part of the game launch week, but it's also the second piece of our project that we're very excited about, which is going to be the entertainment piece. So there's a lot of you have got to know us now. Entertainment is a big part of our background of the team, the Novo team. So we're obviously building out the story entertainment track, where there's going to be more long form sort of animation content that people will consume, and that's just going to live off chain, and people will be able to just interact and consume the story, and then they'll be able to vote and purchase different content to arc the story development, and they'll be able to stake those assets for Novo tokens and a whole bunch of different things. And we plan to start utilizing a lot of those pieces cross-chain. So we've already had conversations with a bunch of different chains. We met with Polygon Studios when we were in New York and a bunch of other chains. The plan is for this project to transcend to be multi-chain, to be able to port the Novo token, especially across chain, open this up to a multitude of new users. So we have a lot of big plans for the project. We are pursuing investment funding at the minute. We've had a lot of interest from major groups. We spoke with a lot of major groups in New York. So we are currently in our seed stage of fundraising right now. So we are planning to really put a lot of effort, time, and resources to continue to not only develop this game, but develop the IP of Novo. And that's just the world that we've come from. We've built brands and different experiences over the years, and so we know through the characters and the creatures and all the cool stuff that you guys have all seen, there's going to be, I think, a lot of interest just for fans that want to engage with the story. And then trying to obviously use that as a vehicle to onboard them onto the chain, potentially for the first time. So a lot of cool stuff, that we have in the hopper and that we're working on. So, we're excited that you guys are here and on the journey with us, and, want to make sure that, we're always being transparent with you guys, and you guys kind of see where we're going with this thing. So, but if there isn't any other questions, but yes, yeah, MVP is minimum viable product. Sorry, it's always using these acronyms. It's the problem when you've been in corporate for most of your career. You just get used to the stupid corporate acronyms. So yes, thanks, Frank. MVP is minimum viable product. That's what MVP stands for. So it's kind of the first release proof of concept, is what a lot of people call it as well. So, but that's it, guys. Thanks for your time. Appreciate those that jumped on, and we'll pop this recording, Frank, in VIP, and we'll share it out to anybody. And that's it. So cheers, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a good day.